So Pen, thank you very much for agreeing to talk to us. I know you've had a harrowing last 6 months finishing up your dissertation. Do you want to tell us a bit about what you've been researching and how it's all panned out?
Thank you, Julian. Yes, I have been researching 18th century English paintings and part of 19th century all English paintings, because at that period they were done in a specific way. They were landscapes, they were merry England, idyllic countryside, which of course it wasn't. It was all a cover-up for the power of the wealthy.
Right.
And the workforce very rarely appeared in these paintings. As the 18th century drew to a close, you had a few more close-up idealistic paintings of the workforce, but you never had any ugly, nasty paintings of the workforce because they just weren't recognised. They were the majority. I think it's a 3% of the population were the upper classes, and the rest were the poor, and they just were not recognised at that time. Didn't want to be. No painting must have a worker on the, in it, because the wealthy did not want pictures of the workforce on their walls.
Yes. And how did you find the research process for this work? Because obviously, if these types of paintings were so rare and sort of hidden away from society in general, how did you find the literature review, the search for?
It's improved. I mean, I think if you'd done this, if you decided on this subject, say 30, 40 years ago, there was no interest in we call it the social history of art, but now it's becoming a recognised thing that the workforce were completely ignored. And now people are more class conscious maybe, and they want to know why, because they built the houses, they tilled the fields, they looked after the masters, but no recognition.
We were talking about how difficult it was to get research materials for your thesis.
True. Well, I really haven't, they were all secondary sources. I couldn't get primary sources unless I went to England or somewhere and, to some of the libraries. I was restricted to online and to the university libraries and that. But I had to sort of compare and contrast what has been written up to now about the workers, and I compared and contrasted, and I had to work it that way and try to make a conclusion as to why they weren't wanted. But then you have to bring in, you have to think of an English countryside, and you think of an English countryside with patchwork fields. But that was only after 1760, when parliamentary enclosure came in, and the big fields were then enclosed,
right.
And the countryside was changed forever.
Yes.
To what we know it now.
And now you've encapsulated all of this research into this giant tomb which you are bringing in. Can we have a quick look at it?
Yeah.
So, wow, look at that. See, you have to work for your degree.
And it makes a good doorstop.
No, I'm sure it doesn't. So tell us a bit about what you had to go through to produce this work.
2.5 years of sometimes enjoyable, sometimes very, very hard slog, but it's very rewarding to see what you've done in this form, and it's a very, very good learning curve. I mean, I have learnt so much. I will never look at an 18th century painting in the same way again, ever.
Yes.
And my sympathies will always be for the underdog, because they were really treated so badly.
So is this a topic that sort of resonates within you quite strongly?
Yes, because I think the underdog has a very rough time. Even today, the underdog has a very rough time. I think they're treated badly, and they're treated so often as being stupid, which is what your 18th and 19th century workforce were. And of course at that time your trade unions didn't come in till 1860, 1870, so they had actually nobody to give them a voice.
Yes.
Which was very, very important. And it was really only after World War I that you would ever get the classes mixing, because you had all your army and air force, not air force, but the armies and that. You had the upper classes being your top dogs, but then you had all the classes intermingled at that stage, which they had never done before.
It was quite a watershed, wasn't it?
Yes,
in history.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yes.
I understand that you're a track director for our arts conference, which is held every year. Can you tell us a little bit about what you'll be doing this year, and also what a visitor or a participant for the conference can expect?
Well, this year I'm going to talk about architecture of the 18th century, which was a small part of what I covered when I was doing my doctorate with Warnborough. And because I think visitors to England especially love to see the stately homes of England, but they just see it as a stately home, but no thought, very little thought is given to how it came about, what it stood for. Did anyone, you go around, you see the beautiful paintings and you just look at them and that's it, and you go home. But if you look at them deeply, they all have different symbolism, and they were all symbols of the powerful. But the workers, the workforce, you never see, you never notice them in the paintings at all. So I thought it was very important to give the poor a voice.
Fantastic.
And the second track that I possibly be doing is the female workforce that were utilised so admirably in the factories of England during the First World War. When the men came back, the women were put back into the kitchen. The women did not like being put back into the kitchen. So in France and in England there was an advertising campaign specifically pitched at the woman in the kitchen to try and make her feel better about being a woman in the kitchen by promoting motor cars that she could possibly drive, mechanical, hoovers and washing machines and everything to give her a little more kudos.
I've also heard some wonderful news that Cambridge University Press has approached you to do a book based on the research that you did for your PhD. So could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, they have, which is very complimentary after all the studies. And yes, I will be putting my thesis in a slightly different form. It'll be made into a book, and all going well, the book will come out next Christmas.
Oh, wonderful.
The time has been edited, and which is actually very exciting to see your work in book form.
So the slog has been worth it.
I think so. Not on a bad day.
Not on a bad day. I'm sure we all have one of those every now and then.
Absolutely.
So tell us a little bit about the person that would, have to, how would a person, what sort of qualities would a person need to have in order to start a PhD and finish it? Because sometimes people say, a distance learning degree is less rigorous, it's Mickey Mouse, it's not as good as, say, doing it in a face-to-face setting. So it would be really quite interesting to see how you found the whole process.
It's very rewarding, but you do have to be very diligent. You have a mentor. I had a most amazing mentor who guided me through on the bad days. But you still have a lot of work to do on your own, and it's left to you to produce the work. But you really, really do have to stick at it. It's not something that you can pick up for, say, a few weeks and then go away. You have to keep on plugging away at it.
Wow.
Which for me it suits me very well, because I like to work on my own. But I still think it's very useful for people. It's more rewarding, I think, than having one-to-one with your tutor and that sort of thing. It's very, very rewarding, because everything you have learnt through your own integrity
Fantastic. Oh, well. What better endorsement for distance learning is there? What Penelope has said. So thank you very much for spending time with us this afternoon, and also for sharing your thoughts and ideas. If there's anything that you would say to any potential PhD candidates, what would it be?
Go for it.
Go for it. Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Julian.